Hi there guys, it's Ryan C. Sumner. I can give you a overview of where I'm at with my tank plumbing. Not quite done yet, but almost there. I'm battling some cyano right now, so the tank is looking a little funky. I just cleaned the sand yesterday, so it's a little better. But let's dive right into it and let me give you a view of what I've got going on ever since I rebuilt my manifold, and I've got everything going on in here. So this is a Reefer, Red Sea Reefer 525, and this is a sump area, which is where all the goodies are. So I'm running a Reef Octopus Varios 8, rated for about 2,700. There's no way you're gonna get that. I'll share some Neptune flow meter metrics and kind of merge those into the video a little later. But let's just jump right into kind of how I have this thing set up. So single pump. I've got it kind of moved towards the front of the return section. I come up with a couple of 45s just so I can get basically right to the front of the sump area. Now from there, you can see it, I basically have what's called a 90-degree elbow with side out, or they'll call it a three-way. The only place I could find a 1 1/4 inch of this, because that's what I'm doing, is I'm going 1 1/4 all the way down to the Varios 8, and then I go all the way up. I've got two 45s, I've got a union just to make it easy to disconnect, and then I go three-way, 1 1/4. From that three-way 1 1/4, I actually have bushings in there down to 1 inch, straight from there. And I basically split. One side goes down to my bio pellets at 1 inch as far as I can take it. So I get basically 1 inch all the way to the end, and then I have a 1 to 1/2 inch 90-degree elbow. Okay. From there, I have a couple of 45s just to take it away from the wall, and then I come down to a 1/2 inch union. Then another 1/2 inch union to the 1/2 inch union that was on the bio pellet reactor. If we take it back up, you'll also notice I've got a 1/2 inch ball. Now I didn't use true union there, mainly because it's space constrained. The true union ball valves are kind of large. They're not only large in diameter, but they're also large in length. And underneath these reefer tanks, space is very constrained. So I use standard, straight up 1 inch ball valves. You can just pick them up from Lowe's. I use the Lowe's versions rather than the ones that you can get from Home Depot, mainly because the Lowe's versions are, they have black handles on them. So I felt that just coincided with my color scheme a little better rather than going with blue from Home Depot. And they're pretty free flowing, just work them out a little bit before you install them. I didn't have to put any oil or anything like that on them. I don't even know what you would put on them to loosen them up, but I didn't have to do anything like that. So 1 inch ball valves everywhere in here on the manifold, okay? I've got some pics of this out of the tank that I can share. But straight after the ball valve, I actually bought BSP, or the British threaded 1 inch slip. I did that because it's less space. The standard, what are they called? The standard unions that come with the 1 inch flow meter from Neptune are pretty large. Total length by the time you have the two unions and the flow meter is about 9 inches. I was able to cut that down to 7 inches in total length by using these. Now I had to order these special. I'll try to add a link below in the YouTube video. I got them from Flex PVC. It's the only place I could find the 1 inch to 1 inch threaded BSP. And they were fairly expensive with the shipping, but I went ahead and bought 4 of them. So you'll see I have another one back on the back side where I do my return. I'll come back to that in a minute. But that's where I used the 4 of them. So as soon as I leave that, I come down into a couple of 45s just to get a couple of different angles on it. The glue job there is not my best work. It's probably the only thing I screwed up on this manifold. It's a little crooked, but luckily I used a bunch of unions, so everything kind of worked its way out, right? No leaks, everything's cool. So back up, if you go back over to this 45, the other side of the 45 goes straight. Oh man, it's a bad angle, but see if I can get it up in there. There we go. So there's the 45, comes over. I have 2 1-inch tees plus another ball valve in the middle. Luckily, the amount of distance between those 2 tees and that ball valve equaled exactly 7 7/8 inch, which is exactly what I needed to reach the UV. So I go off those tees with 2 more 1-inch ball valves, and then I follow that immediately with a 1-inch 90-degree elbow. Off that 90-degree elbow, I go directly into 2 1-inch to 2-inch bushings, and then the Aqua UV has 2-inch slip bushings. So I just glued all that together. So in the middle of the 2 tees is a 1-inch ball. So you'll notice right now it's in the closed position. So what that does is that forces all the water to go down that entry point on that UV. And the UV's on right now. This is a 15-watt UV. It's not very long. But I'm only pumping about 425 through this puppy right now. So by closing that ball valve, I force the water to go down that, and then comes back out that side. Comes back out that T and drops down. You'll notice I dropped down about 3 inches because there's another 90-degree elbow, 1 inch there. I've got about a 1/2 inch of PVC there. I used red Schedule 40 everywhere as much as I could to match my Reefer Octopus gear. And then I go another 90 into into a union. Now the union's there just so I can disconnect this section that goes right up to the return. Then I've got another 1-inch flow from Neptune. And then, let's come around this side maybe. See if we can get around there. Sorry gang. It's gonna be a bad picture, but there we go. So from there I go another 90-degree elbow, 1 inch, and then I go into a 1 to 3/4 inch male fitting. Now that's a perfect length to match up with that. I had to play with that once I got everything put together. So this wasn't an easy job to be able to match up the plumbing, and it's not 100% perfect, but it does work, and I don't have any leaks. The only leak I have is right there, and I didn't even glue that. I basically just have it pressure fitted. So everywhere else is 100% cool. I used 1-step PVC glue, so no more purple and then no more primer and then the glue. I just use 1-step everywhere. This is a low pressure system. There's absolutely no reason why you need to use 2-step. That keeps everything clean, everything's clear. You know, I've got no blue drips and runs or anything like that. A couple of other things. So that's the whole return system. So I'm running stock everywhere else. You know, I'd love to replace this Red Sea return. I mean, this goes 3/4 inch all the way up. You're really not going to get more than 500 gallons an hour. I mean, not out of anything that's reasonable. I mean, like I said, I'm running a 2,700 gallon an hour pump. Now, granted, it's not a $2,000 Abyss or anything like that, but it's still a high-end pump, and I'm only really turning over about 500 gallons. I mean, at the max. Right now, I'm probably more towards the low 4s with everything running, because now I do have my bio pellets running, and I'm running about 300 gallons an hour through that. Like I said, I'll share the specifics later. Yeah, so over here you'll notice I have the ATO out. I am going to convert that. I already had it partially drilled for a refugium conversion. I'm going to finish that job. I didn't really like the way I did it the first time around, so I'll share another post later on that. So right now I just have all my heaters in here. I'm running Neotherms. I run 3 of them. So I can get the smaller version of the Neotherms, and then I just run 3 of them and have them piped into my Apex 832. So yeah, Reef Octopus Regal 150 does the job. I've got a lightly stocked tank right now. I did have to build it quite a ways up in this reefer. And you'll notice it looks monstrous. Well, this thing's rated for 6 to 8.5 inches. So I built this puppy way up, and now it's quite efficient. I've got the inlet of that running out to CO2 canister. So if I carry you over here to the return section, which is kind of critical. I've played with this over the past year or so. I've actually got my ATK from Neptune running in here. I've also got my Neptune probes running in here. I've got my dose. I'm running, of course, soda ash, calcium chloride, and I'm running Seachem Trace here for my trace elements that I pump in about 3 times a week. I've got all that dumping in here. I've got a Hydor Corolla. I think this is maybe it's an 850, something like that. I've got that pumping in against the flow. So basically it'll push it against the back wall of the return section to try to mix as much of that as it possibly can prior to entering the return. I've had lots of precipitation in the past, clogging up my pumps, clogging up my bio pellets, clogging up my everything. Anything that was running off my return, it would just clog it up. So I'm taking as much precaution now as I possibly can to push as much water in that return section wherever I'm dumping my nutrients or my additives. I'm just pumping as much water as I possibly can there. Yeah, bio pellets, I just added these tonight actually. I'm running about a 3rd dose right now. I'm using Dr. Tim's pearls this time around. I used BRS last time. I don't think the pellets were a problem. I just happened to use Dr. Tim's because I actually primed these pellets with Waste Away. Yeah, so I really have this is again running directly off of my return. I would have put in another recirculating, probably a Vast, but I already had this. This is a couple $100 reactor, and I had plenty of horsepower left over on the Varios 8, so I decided to just go ahead and continue to use this. And I've got it trying to point as close to the inlet of my skimmer as possible. I'll dump the outlet of my refugium back there in this back right hand corner where there's no flow. I'll just dump it back there. I've got a 3, actually no, I take that back. I'm gonna dump it, I'm gonna drill the bottom of my ATO and dump it right there back into the return, the first chamber. You know, some people say, well, you know, if you're dumping that there, then you're gonna lose, you know, all of your you know, phytoplankton and all that kind of good stuff are going to get trapped in your socks. I mean, they're just smaller than that. I mean, if you do the research. So I'm not really worried about that. And I really like having it dump back into that section, so just in case I get any loose material coming out of the fuge, it'll dump back into my socks. So I'll share that in another video, but that's gonna run off a different pump just so I can put a optical sensor on it and cut it off if it starts to overflow, so I don't flood out my sump area. Again, another video. On this Reef Octopus, I did have a neck cleaner on this puppy back when I had it a lot lower to the ground, because the neck cleaner adds on about 3 inches, 4 or 5, actually 4.5 inches, I think. So I had this guy, you know, it was all the way to the roof of the sump, but I had to pull it off. I noticed that the skimmer just wasn't nearly as efficient. It wasn't producing skim aid the same. Very, very variable, and I wasn't able to really run the skimmer at 100%. It would just flood out. So changed all that up. Yeah, so that's about it on plumbing. I've just got a couple puck lights in here. It keeps everything lit. They're battery powered. So yeah, that's really about it. Let me see if I can show you a little bit of this dry side. I just redid all this, so excuse the wires, but getting everything cleaned up. I had everything mounted on a board previously, and you know, while it was a lot cleaner, it was a significant pain in the butt to be able to get to anything. So I pulled all that out. I actually custom made all that wood, put it in here, and it worked out real well, but it was it was just a pain in the butt to be able to get to everything. I had to remove the boards, then I had to get behind everything, and so I just removed all that and mounted everything into the inside. So this is electrical. I know it's not plumbing, but I do have my dose. I have 2 doses, a couple for trace and amino acids. I'm gonna hook up amino acids again, but everything's running real well. I love how I can get access to everything, and I got a ton of room. Before I had absolutely no room in there. I could basically fit my DDR and maybe a flashlight and a couple bottles of C-Chem in here, and that was it. Now I've got plenty of room. If I wanted to move my ATO in here, I could. And when the Trident comes out, then of course I'll have plenty of room for that. And then over here, I just run the Innovative Marine ATO. I've got the PMUP in there and a flow sensor to tell me when my ATO is low. Behind that, you'll see my CO2. I also have a Avast Marine skim aid locker back there in the back. So that's all that. That's really it. To get to the Avast Marine locker, you could barely see it, but I basically drilled, well, yeah, you can't see it at all. I drilled a 1/2-inch hole in the back of the cabinet, and then I don't have it hooked up right now because I need to extend the line. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get to because my tank is so close to the back wall. But yeah, I just have that running in, and then I can hook that Avast Marine locker right up here to the Regal, and yeah, that's it. So, only other thing, yeah, I just wanted to brag a little bit about the Avast Marine Spyglass reactors that I have running here. So I'm running, right now, I don't have any GFO because I'm actually trying to raise my phosphates, but I'm running both ROX Carbon and C-Chem Purigen. And these things are awesome. I mean, yeah, they're twice the price of maybe a little more than twice the price of a standard reactor, but I don't have to plumb them in. I mean, I've plumbed these in before. I've had other reactors. I've probably had 2 or 3. I've run the Aqua Max. I've had those plumbed in to my return. These things are just awesome. And if you've got a reefer, you've got plenty, especially the 525. You've got tons of room in your skimmer section. Unless you're going to convert this to a refugium and not use the ATO conversion, which I've tried before too, by the way. And honestly, I love having all the gear. I could run a whole nother small. These are the small versions of the Avast. I can run a whole nother Avast for GFO, which I'm eventually going to do. And honestly, I'd probably have room for 2 more back there if I really wanted to get rid of the bio pellets. But I'm going to keep the bio pellets. It's a little crammed up next to my skimmer right now, but that's okay because I kind of want it pumping over into that skimmer section. I've only been running these guys for 20 minutes, and the skim aid's already, kind of milky. But yeah, I love these things. They're easy to clean once you get them dialed in. This small media, you have to get used to messing with it, and maybe I'll do a video on that one day when I'm changing it out. But other than that, I'm really just cleaning up my wiring right now, folks. I mean, I've got to get this stuff kind of cleaned up. I've got some stuff coming, some like wire ties, some red wire ties to match my PVC. That'll kind of clean this up and get everything nice and pretty. I'm going to convert this, I think, to a Seche Nano 530. It's a little less depth and small. Plus the Seche comes with a longer power cord. So and this won't be so tight. Yeah, I got to drill the rest of that tank out for the ATO conversion, and I think I might be done. Only a year in the works. Yeah, and then I'll mount up here right above this section here. I'll mount. I have a H80. I have an H80 light that I'll put in there, a Kessel that I'll put in there for the refugium. And yeah, I'll probably dump all these. This is a matrix, Econ matrix. I'll dump all that into the refugium. I think I'm just going to run it all in the refugium rather than having it down here at all. I'd like to have another probably power head down here running in the main skimmer section just to keep all this shit off the bottom. I was running actually an air pump in that main section. I kind of liked it, other than the fact that they're loud as hell. Yeah. Skimmer, lines are going back there. I've got everything else tied up nice and pretty up there. Yeah, folks, that's it. I'm not doing anything special up here in the return section. The only thing I do have is, I can't remember who makes this. I don't know if it's Innovative Marine or who, but it's it basically takes the standard Reefer 3/4 inch kind of ball return and converts it into a 2-port. A lot of people run, lock line here. I've run the lock line before, and honestly, it just reduced my flow. So but definitely you'll notice that if you split this to 2, you will get more flow. I've ran it on flow meters. I ran a stock Reefer single, and I don't think I could get more than 380, 390. Go to a split like this, and you'll gain 20 gallons per hour. The lock line doesn't really help all that much. It actually hurts. So this is the best flow that I was actually, the most gallons per hour, the most turnover that I was actually able to get is out of this little guy. It's a 3D printed thing. It was cheap as hell. Fits actually nice and snug in there. I think I've got my return right now. This Varios 8 is running at 80%, and I'm turning over. Like I said, I'll post actual numbers later, but probably close to 500 gallons an hour, probably 470 on the return and the display, and I've got probably 300 on the bio. So yeah, that's really it. Oh, and then only other thing on the plumbing is I've got my waves running on the back wall. I've got them about a third of the way up, as you can see, tilted halfway up, and this just kind of gives me a good front to back and left to right. So that's it, folks. Thanks.